We begin tonight with President Biden ending his COVID-19 isolation after testing negative last night and again this morning. Mr. Biden said he made a speedy recovery. He did so in remarks from the Rose Garden.
My symptoms were mild, my recovery was quick, and I'm feeling great. The entire time I was in isolation, I was able to work, to carry out the duties of the office and without any interruption. It's a real statement on where we are in the fight against COVID-19.
For more on all this, I want to bring in Sean Sullivan. He joins me now. He's the deputy politics editor for campaigns at The Washington Post. Sean, always good to see you. Before we get to the president, what can you tell us about the administration's offer, if it in fact is a hard, concrete offer, maybe it isn't, maybe it is, to bring Brittney Griner and Paul Whelan home?
Yeah, and we don't know exactly now, what the terms of this would be. This has been a sensitive negotiation. It appears over the last few weeks, the administration's been pretty tight-lipped about what it was willing to do. Anytime you have a situation where you have a potential prisoner swap, no less with, a country like Russia right now, which does not have the best relationship with the United States for various reasons. I think there's a lot of sensitivity around it. But we did hear, these comments from Secretary Blinken about this possible prisoner swap. But now the question is, who, if this does come to fruition, is going to be returned to Russia? There's been a lot of speculation about an arms dealer. We've also heard, commentary from outside observers about, is this an equal exchange, so to speak? Are you, giving somebody who is regarded as a pretty dangerous individual back to Russia for prisoners that the United States regards as being, held not on solid ground? So still a lot of uncertainty about this right now, but it appears that there has been some progress on this after what has, looked like a pretty sensitive negotiation here in recent weeks.
Sean, as I mentioned, we saw the president in the Rose Garden, and whenever we see those aviator sunglasses, we know he's back in business. President tested negative, expected to jump back into public events right away. Is that the expectation? And if so, where would he go and what would he do?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we've heard a lot from this White House, even before this COVID diagnosis, about the president getting out more in the country, talking to the American people directly. And of course, we are fast approaching the midterm elections where, I think the president wants to be out there. It does remain to be seen how that's going to happen and when. I think the message today that the president was trying to send is, look, I'm back, I'm healthy, I tested negative, I recovered from this. But I think it was notable that he also used the moment to try to talk about what his administration has done in the pandemic more broadly. He reminded people of the efforts that his administration has undertaken when it comes to vaccines, when it comes to other treatments. And he reminded people that, look, the death rate and hospitalizations have fallen in the time that he's been in office. When you look at the beginning of this administration, the pandemic really was a focal point for this president, for this White House. At the very start, it was really all they talked about. That big pandemic relief bill was one of the first things that they tried to push through Congress. But then it also became a stumbling block for them because last year, the president, around the 4th of July, effectively said, look, we're close to declaring our independence from COVID. That was clearly not the case. And I think another part of his message today with this new variant, going around is that COVID is still with us. It's not going away. It hasn't gone away. But there are ways we can live with this safely. Look at me, look at my recovery. So I think that was part of the message he was trying to send too, is to try to remind the public what he and his administration have done when it comes to the pandemic.
Right. And if there would be two headlines at the White House today, it might be President Biden, I'm back, inflation still here. And related to that, the Federal Reserve announced another increase in interest rates today. This is a political problem. It's been a persistent one for the administration. Is there any sense, Sean, that you get that the White House is having any success with its Democratic allies in helping them through what can only be described as turbulent messaging in and around inflation?
Yeah, Major, when I talk to Democrats on Capitol Hill, when I talk to Democrats with an eye on the campaign, this is one of the issues that comes up time and time again. The economy tends to be the dominant concern of voters when it comes to these midterm elections or really any national election. And when you have a situation right now where prices are rising, have been rising at a very, very significant clip, this is very, very worrisome to Democrats. And I think a lot of them have looked to the White House for leadership over the last few months for some sort of message that will break through the American people. And a lot of them feel like they don't see it. Remember, last year, this White House and this administration continually said, look, inflation is transitory. This is a temporary thing. It is not going to be a long-term trend. That proved to not be correct. And I think some Democrats worry that, look, the administration and this president undercut their own credibility when they talk about the economy. So the question now is, how can this administration convince the American people in the next several months here leading up to the midterms that they are doing something to bring down prices, that they are forwarding a policy that will combat this stuff? Because I think the reality, when you look at polling, when you talk to strategists of both parties right now, is that a lot of voters right now have the opposite view. They blame this White House. They blame this administration for letting this happen on their watch. And this could be a huge, huge liability when you look at these battleground Senate races, House races, and gubernatorial races that are in the balance as strategists eye the November midterms.
So, Sean, let's move our perspective a little bit overseas. President Biden has scheduled a virtual meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping tomorrow. There's got to be a lot of agenda items in that meeting.
It's interesting. I mean, this is a relationship, we talked about the U.S.-Russia relationship, but this is a relationship that has also been very, very tense throughout President Biden's tenure in office. And so we'll see, what they talk about, whether there are any discussions about this idea of, Speaker Pelosi potentially taking this trip to Taiwan and what that would mean and how that might exacerbate tensions. It's a reminder, too, that, as the president deals with stuff domestically, he is also trying to navigate these relationships overseas. But as we look to almost the 2-year mark of this presidency right now, the reality is when it comes to Russia, when it comes to China, two countries that did come up a lot on the campaign trail, it's a very, very strained relationship overall, very, very difficult for the president to navigate. So we'll have to watch and see what comes of this.
You can be sure tariffs and Taiwan will be at the top of that agenda. Sean Sullivan, as always, thanks so very much.
Thanks, Major.